Hello, welcome back to our next installment of our Google Hangout series, The Intersection of Technology and Culture. Um, I think it's top of mind for everyone right now as we literally head into one of the biggest weeks of the year for retail, and then heading into the holiday season, and of course segueing right into everyone's favorite trade show, the International CES. And one of the things we introduced last year at CES was our CEO, Gary Shapiro's book club, in which we ask a number of experts in the industry who have written books in the past year to come in and be interviewed to talk about their books. It was a lot of fun last year. We learned a lot and had a good time with it. Today, I'm delighted to welcome on Nicole Gallucci, who has written a book, Adversperience. She's going to be featured as one of the authors at Gary's book club at this year's CES. We want to talk to her today a little bit about her background, why she wrote the book, why the book is important, and what she expects to see both in the holiday season and at CES. So without further ado, Nicole, welcome aboard, and why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to write the book?
Well, hi, and thank you very much, and hello to everybody out there in cyberspace. To be perfectly frank, I have been in marketing for 30 plus years, which actually pains me to even say that. And I've been both client side and agency side. And client side, I was in brand management. And agency side, I run this amazing little agency in Canada called Boom Marketing, and we execute experiential marketing. And in fairness, the book itself came out of the cumulative sum of those two experiences. You know, as we were being briefed by clients, so many of them were saying to us, "Oh my God, help us! There are so many messages out there. Consumers are so fragmented. We don't know what to do. Help us." And so we did what every good agency did and does, and we said, "No problem, we can fix this." And then we leave and we come back to our shop and have a heart attack and figure out, okay, how exactly are we going to fix this? But truth is, while many things have changed over the past few decades, a few things haven't changed. And one of the things that hasn't changed is the human need for connection and interaction. And really, what Adversperience was and is it's the convergence of advertising and experiential marketing. So it takes all the amazing things that are still tried and true with advertising. And truthfully, the whole benefit of advertising it is that it gives a message about a product and allows that to be amplified to the masses. The thing about an experience is that an experience is something that, if done right, truly resonates and stands the test of time. You know, we all mark our lives by different experiences. We mark them by weddings and babies and home ownerships and new jobs, etc. So when you take a look at it, done right, if we can actually harness the trappings of experiences and the strength of advertising and bring them together, then truly there can be magic that we can create for a brand so it has long-term sustainability in the eyes and ears and hearts of consumers. And that's truly what an Adversperience was meant to be, and that's what we are. We have launched ourselves as the world's first Adversperience agency. And really the intent is to say that it's advertising on steroids. It's everything that advertising wants to be. Essentially, the goal is to create an experience that in the process tells the brand story, but as the consumer is going and participating and engaging in the brand story, they create a story of their own. And the two become inextricably and forever linked, so that now that this has a very relevant message that stays with the consumer. They can't unexperience. You can't untaste, untouch, untell, unsmell. Once it happens to you, it happens to you. So it stays with you. And if we do it right and we make sure it's relevant, then we've turned them into brand ambassadors, and they'll buy our product before they buy anybody else's. And that's the ultimate objective. And in fairness, that's what we try and do for our clients. The goal of the book, so I'll show you guys a copy. It will be obviously available at CES when we're there, but the goal really was to not only explain the concept, to justify it with facts and ensure that it was highly credible, but then to also provide a framework for brands, whether it's agencies or brand owners, to actually make an Adversperience happen for their brands so that they resonate in the hearts and minds of their consumers. That was a long answer.
That was a great answer. That was exactly what I wanted. So I think before we take a deeper dive, and I certainly want to take a deeper dive into the book and you know, talk about your experience, with your decades of experience, I'm intrigued by, and I find it easy to believe your assertion that things have changed and yet they haven't changed that much. I think right now everybody understands that our world is almost fully digital. I wonder in what ways that that impetus of all things digital, meaning that you can reach anyone, anytime, anywhere, has impacted more traditional marketing. And is this, have we been slow to evolve and adapt to this, or is it's very much a process still in motion, I would imagine?
Well, it's very interesting. We obviously leverage digital. Digital is the great amplifier, right? It allows us to share so much in a heartbeat. Look at Facebook. I can immediately tell everyone that we're on Google Hangout right now so easily. So my circle and community. So I think that's awesome. What digital, though, the weakness, the strength and the weakness is that there is this mass proliferation of messages and connections. So how do you actually filter through that? What is going to resonate? And so this is where, as much as we've had all this messaging and all of these different communication devices, and technology has certainly allowed us to communicate so easily all around the world on a very continuous basis every moment of the day. But the truth is there's so much. How do we weed through? And what hasn't changed and what has stood the test of time is the one-to-one interaction. And we're almost going back to a little bit of that one-to-one consumer. If it was a perfect world, we would have an up-close and personal conversation with every single one of our consumers. Well, we all know that's not scalable and it's not feasible. And that's actually what gave rise to advertising. I think what's happened with experiential marketing is that it has provided a much-needed content play for the digital framework. So what it does is it gives us a story to go out and share with consumers so consumers can have an interaction, and now they have some content that they can share with their circle, and then that gets us further amplification, and then it grows from there. So that allows us to get advertising from a whole different perspective. It's the amplification of those who actually interact with us at our events or at our engagements that is now the new form of advertising. And that's what digital has enabled us to have throughout as we've evolved through time. All that said, we have to still ensure that we're getting out all our key messaging, hence the reason that we want to frame that content so that the brand story is there, and at the same time the consumer creates their story that links the two together. That's the magic. And I would say, it's interesting as we're going into this week. Black Friday is soon upon us. Cyber Monday follows shortly thereafter. So as much as we're going to have bricks and mortar on Friday, we're going to have cyberspace on Monday. Sure. Truth is, there are going to be a million newspaper ads, radio ads, TV ads. There is still going to be a ton of word of mouth, and there are still going to be a ton of people who are saying, oh my God, you need to go here because this is where this is going to be, and this is where that sale is going to be. And sure enough, what is going to get the popular play at the end of the day, either on Thursday prior to Friday or on Friday as a bit of a recap, will be where there are big stories and big events happening where there has been a groundswell that is disproportionate to expectation. And that's going to be because that groundswell, there will have been a catalyst or an event that has been caused, and now it will have been amplified by all the consumers that interact. One thing we did in the book, and we share this with all of our clients, is we created the Adversperiential Continuum. And I'd say Good Friday is a good analogy to this. We're all excited. So technically along the continuum, we're at the very beginning of the continuum. And there are circles of people who are actually going to plan their route on Friday and exactly where they're going to be at 8 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, I guess, if you're really crazy. And where will you be at the time you get to 8 o'clock? But they'll have a sequence of events in play. And so this is the pre. And then for sure on Friday they will be, and we all know this, they'll be saying, got this deal, and they'll be texting and emailing and Facebooking and sharing where the different deals are, their different wins, their losses, etc. And then the day after, they will have normalized and shared some of the highs and lows and the hits and the misses. So we call that entire process the continuum, the adversperiential continuum. What we've done is we've added one more element to that and actually suggested and proposed that it's physiological. That in fact, in the beginning, you're getting excited. So your heart rate actually starts to elevate because you're like, this is kind of cool. and now you're knee deep in it, and your heart rate is way up there, and you're fully engaged because, oh my God, you did get that sweater that was, you know, $350 because it's mohair and cashmere and yada 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 for $29.99. So of course you've taken a picture of yourself in it and put it all over social media. And then the next day you have absolutely normalized, and now you've got the sweater on with a nice pair of jeans, but you're still sharing that out there with your friends. And sure, you've normalized and stabilized, but the point is you've gone on and shared the story, and there has been a, if we have done it correctly, we have created a brand story that you have then added your own piece and your own consumer story, and now you go on and share that, and the two are linked, and we're forever part of your very being. So we share that in the Continuum with the hope that that provides a replicatable model for the industry to go forth and use.
So what I'm picking up from what I've seen some of your talks online and you know the book and what you're saying now is really the great challenge. There's so much opportunity in this digital space. It's never been, we talk about this a lot in this series, that it's never been easier to build a brand or market a brand. At the same time, it's probably never been more challenging because of the inherent competition, because it's so easy to do, everyone's doing it. But I like the idea that you're talking about really in order to connect with an individual and then have the individual use effective word of mouth, it has to be a personalized experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You have to find a way that a consumer stands out. They can raise their hand and they have something unique to tell. Absolutely. You have to do the same thing for a brand.
And is there something about that where you basically are an effective marketing campaign, effective branding is in a sense getting consumers to help you market and brand? It becomes almost a team effort at that point.
Oh, absolutely. You know, yesterday I was, you know, on LinkedIn. I'm sure all of us use LinkedIn. There were different articles on who owns a brand now. Is it the consumer or is it the manufacturer / brand owner? And in so many cases, it is the consumer that's very much framing the story. I think our job as brand marketers is to come out with truly unique products that fulfill a requirement for the consumer. But beyond that, I think that consumers play a huge role now shaping how brands are used, leveraged, commercialized, improved, the whole gamut, how they're marketed, you name it, they're out there, and they're the ones who are doing a lot of the communication about it, good, bad, and otherwise. So I think the goal for us is hopefully to ensure our product is out there with all of the right trappings, and if there is an opportunity for improvement, that we're actually taking that consumer learning and in fact making those improvements. And I think that actually increases loyalty because now the brand, or the consumer rather, actually feels like they're an equity player in the process. And I think that's a beauty to the digital space as well, because it allows the consumer to play such an important role.
Absolutely, and you know, circle back on what you were saying. It's intuitive at this point. Everyone I think understands in theory that every individual. So in addition to being, you know, a loyal advocate for the brand, every individual has their own brand, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn. And so in addition to word of mouth, having a loyal advocate, you're reaching all these connections that you may never have otherwise reached. So it's kind of a win-win-win in that regard for you know, getting that buy-in that the people really are advocating, not just as a cheerleader, but you know, advocating in their own unique way, which probably conveys an integrity that even the most optimistic brand or marketer wouldn't dream of, because no one can convince their friends like the person who's an actual friend.
Oh, absolutely. You know, word of mouth still outperforms any other qualifier, bar none, in terms of driving consumer purchase. And you know that yourself. Think about all of the things that you buy, whether it's a car or a holiday or a new product. The number one source of information is often, sure, you may hear about it in different ways, but the number one catalyst that has the greatest impact and truly drives purchase is word of mouth. You know, and women do it all the time. You know, we automatically say, "Oh my God, I love your sweater. Oh my God, don't you love my sweater?" And I got it for $9.99 here, here, and here. Right. You know, and automatically everybody gets on that train. So you take a woman who is a bit influential in her circle, and now she shares that out, and it's phenomenal. And there is everything attached to that. You're so right. It's authentic, organic, high integrity, highly credible, the whole gamut. So for a brand to have a consumer award it that distinction and stay along and be a partner with it is huge.
So I think one of the things you are trying to articulate and address in the book, how are brands able to leverage what you've coined as an adversperience?
So good question. So what we do, and it's a big focus for us, is really look at what makes the brand unique and what is the story that it wants to tell. And I think that's, that's true over time. That's a question we would have asked ourselves 60 years ago. Then within that, how can we create an active brand engagement? So something where the consumer, it has to be sensorial, so that they can see, touch, hear, smell, taste in some way, shape, or form with the brand. So it's live. They are physically engaged. And then in the process of becoming physically engaged, they participate, and within that create some kind of communication or content that they can then share. The simplest example, and I really am simplifying this because I feel like I'm almost dumbing it down too much, but when you're at an engagement and you very quickly take a selfie of some sort within a brand engagement, it goes without saying that that selfie is going to get posted to all your social media networks. Truth is, in my opinion, that's a little bit too simplified, and I would say if we went back 5 years ago, that would have been of value. Today, selfies are, the message of the moment, in fairness.
Right.
But I would say something as simple as that shows how we are now forever linking ourselves with a particular brand activity. We have done some things where, in fact, we created for one of our clients. I said, okay, if I share a live example, is that okay if I share an actual product example?
Absolutely.
So we had, for one of our clients, we had this. It was a disposable razor. So this was a disposable razor targeted to 18 to 24-year-old males. And we had several 100,000 of these razors that we needed to distribute, and the whole goal was to get some trial and awareness. To be perfectly frank, 18 to 24-year-old males are not going to stand in line to hear about a product. Like, let's be honest, they're out and about.
Right.
We went to different snowboarding festivals and surfing festivals, etc., across the country. And what we did is we had this insane engagement. We called it Ride the Razor. And it was literally, think of a mechanical bull retrofitted to be a razor. And guys ended up riding the razor, literally. So the benefits of the product were that it flexed and pivoted, and this actually showed off the product benefits of flexing and pivoting. When we launched it, in year one, it was just a very simple version of riding this razor. By the time we actually retired the program, there was the razor, a DJ booth, a scoreboard, all of this padding around, a big, huge tent, and an unbelievable system. And guys would stand in line for 4 hours to ride the razor. And they still talk about it today. And venues call us and ask us if we can bring the Ride the Razor back because it was such an asset to the different venues that we took it to. At the same time, I'm sure anyone who's listening, who's in consumer packaged goods knows you would never get an 18 to 24-year-old male a coupon. It's not going to go anywhere except in the garbage or on the ground. That coupon redeemed at 29%. It boggles my mind to this day. But here's my point in all of that. It was a highly relevant experience. There were guys standing in line for 3 or 4 hours. They still talk about it to this day. They were posting it and sharing it. So to me, that's a beautiful example of how we had a product story to tell. In the process, we created a relevant engagement, so the actual physical flexing and pivoting even of the ride reflected the product. We were able to talk to the consumers while we were in line. They were placing bets as to how long they could stay on the razor. Sure. So they had a ton of fun. And at the same time, we drove trial and purchase. So win-win-win all the way around. So I think that's the key, is that you actually have to create something unique. Now, not everybody's out there creating a mechanical razor that you could ride. But I do think that the things that we're all seeing in the media and seeing being shared through digital are experiences that are truly unique, and I think that's it's incumbent upon creative agencies to really think out of the box on behalf of brands, so that it's not just another selfie installation. It's something that is truly unique and different.
Yeah, and I think what you're getting at really is what I would reckon is kind of the ongoing evolution of advertising and marketing, period. Which is in that example you just gave, the viability and authority of the product in question was almost secondary. It was about getting their attention and personalizing that experience. So you really are talking exactly about what you write about, which is how do I get this person's attention in spite of all the other claims for their attention, and make it something memorable, and then while we've got their attention, hey, check out this product.
Absolutely. I think we all crave experience. I mean, when you think about it, we all look forward to going out for dinner. We all look forward to different events that we happen to see and do in our daily lives. And I think as we become more cyber connected, we actually run the risk of becoming more disconnected. So I think there is an opportunity for brands to better engage with consumers at events and actually create events or be bigger participants at events, because the need for human connection and human interaction is never going to go away. I think so if there's an opportunity to find a relevant and respectful way for brands to be involved in those engagements and maybe even provide them in some cases, which is often the case, then I think that it's incumbent upon them as a responsibility to do that.
Absolutely. So shifting a little bit toward CES, which I know you're looking forward to on a lot of levels. How does this relate to CES, and what have you seen, say, in the past couple of shows you've been to, and what do you expect to see this year? Maybe on micro and macro levels, because what could be a more appropriate place in every way than CES to see this in action, and who's doing it and who isn't, etc.
Yeah, so true, so true. Well, for anybody who hasn't been to CES, you need to go to CES. And I used to think it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I remember the first time I went, oh my God, there is so much technology on steroids. That is for sure. We have yet, my team, a few of the people from my team always come with me when we go, and you always pick up an idea, you always pick up some new learning, you always see some new and different technology. Truth is, CES is the perfect example of Adversperience. It's a technology show. So could it be argued that of all the different events in the world, that CES could actually live online? It's a technological show. You could argue that's the way we should run it, and everybody should just dial it and see it. Truth is, it can't. It's not going to get the volume and have the implications, the amplification, the resonance with consumers. We're not going to understand the technology unless we get up close and personal and physically touch it and interact with it. So CES is literally Adversperience on steroids in and of itself. It's phenomenal for going and understanding the technology, seeing the different competitors and how they relate to the technology. Last year, I was honestly most fascinated even by some of the products that are in development and that haven't even launched yet. So you see a lot of R&D that is up close and personal. And it was on simple things from, surfaces in kitchens that will now, with the touch of a hand, turn into a stovetop. Unbelievable technology that is in the process of being developed. So I think, that's where CES takes us all to a whole different place in time. But it's the perfect example of, at the end of the day, we still have to see, touch, tell, taste in order for anything to truly be real. I sign my signature at the bottom of my emails. Nothing is ever real until it's experienced. And so often we don't get things or understand things until we see, touch, and taste them. We have to try them. And so I think CES very much speaks to that. It is a unbelievable technological mecca. Wear comfortable shoes if anybody's listening.
For sure. So I'd love to hear, in your experience thus far, do you find that it's nascent and emerging technologies, and the folks that brand and market those are more adept at this, or are there demographics within our industry that are more resistant to some of these things, or because I would imagine it's kind of a no-brainer, but is it really all about just the implementation of it?
So it's an interesting question. Are there demographics that are more resistant? I think all of us have a degree of embracing and a degree of resistance, but the resistance comes from the learning curve. I think we all have trouble just keeping up with the constant next generation of everything. I mean, look at even our smartphones. Dear God, the amount of evolution in those in the past year. We barely have one in our hand, and they're talking 2 generations ahead. Some of the things that I personally find the most interesting when we're there is the RFID technology. I think, scanning in, and it feels a little Big Brother-ish to me. So I think there's strengths and weaknesses to that, but we've used it at some of our events, and it's great because it allows consumers to have a truly personal experience, and to a certain degree, we're definitely tracking their patterns as they participate in different events, but the expectation on our end is that we're actually elevating their experience by ensuring it's very catered to them. So I do find that some of the RFID technology that we hear about is phenomenal at CES, and I think it was first introduced at CES, and I think that's the benefit. There's a lot of firsts, and there are things that are a couple of years into development, and there are things that are 5 minutes into development. So that's where it's a great event to go to because you are truly in the know, and it opens the framework of possibilities for so many of the discussions that we have with so many of our clients.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, having been to more than 10 shows at this point, I feel like throughout the course of the year, it's a perpetual state of deja vu because I'll see a product come on the market, say, in August that I saw introduced or previewed at the show, and I'm always thinking, where have I seen that before? And the answer invariably is, of course, I saw it at the CES, because everyone who has anything to say or sell in the industry, it makes it a point to be there.
Yeah, it's funny. I always feel like my kids are ahead of me as it relates to social media and the latest. There's always an app coming out, but as it relates to technology itself, CS really is the catalyst for all of the different launches that happen on a global basis, and so that's where I have the one up on them for a change.
That's right. That's right.
As the 50-year.
So we're almost out of time, but I'd love to end on a note of looking forward because that's what we do here at CEA constantly. Beyond CES, beyond even 2015, what do you see? High level in terms of marketing and Adversperience. What will that word mean in 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think we're very much seeing it happen all around us. As we go to all the different marketing shows and awards shows and events on a global basis, and I attend several right across the world, what we're actually finding is everybody is shifting to such a focus on content that is brought together by an experience. And that is what they're using to provide the foundation for their advertising. So I do think that this is out there and it's happening on a bigger and bigger way. Regardless, it doesn't matter if you're the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity or if you're at a local marketing event or awards show. Everyone who is taking home the gold or the silver of the evening is taking home something where there is an experiential component to it that is being amplified through social networks, digital networks, etc., and that has become their advertising platform, and that is happening globally across the board. I think that's going to continue over the next few years. I think what it's going to cause is an elevation of our game, and in fact, we're going to have the flip case. We're actually going to probably have too many experiences at some point, and consumers are going to be saying, okay, like literally let me drive the car down down the highway. There doesn't have to be an experience at every bridge or every stop sign. So I think we're going to, obviously proliferation happens anywhere and everywhere, but I do think that that's what we're going to start to see, an increasing amount. I think the difference is that we've, and the goal with Adversperience was that we've named it. So we've actually put ourselves out there. It was our attempt to really be innovative and set our agency apart. All of the brands that we work with are constantly innovating, and we wanted to say to them, hey, we're doing the same thing. So we were taking a risk and staking a claim and saying, Adversperience is what all of us are doing, so here it is, and here's the brand, and jump on board, because that is the next revolution and evolution in advertising.
Excellent. Well, I think that the proof is in the results, and you've seen the results both in terms of your lengthy experience in the industry and the reaction that your book is getting. I really look forward to seeing you talk some more at CES and Gary's Book Club. I think people are going to respond to this very positively, and I look forward to hearing, 6 months and a year from now, what we've learned. I'm sure we'll learn a lot, and as always with every CES and every new year in the industry, there are things we couldn't even imagine that seem commonplace less than a year later.
Yeah, that's totally true. Well, hopefully Adversperience will just become part of our vocabulary, and that's ultimately the goal.
Well, let's hope that happens. Thank you, Nicole, so much for joining us. Everyone, check out her book, Adversperience, and if you're at CES, do not miss Gary's book club and come check Nicole out. Nicole, thanks for joining us. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in January in Vegas.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean. Have a great afternoon.
Cheers.